We're live, and just so everybody is aware, Victoria will be here, I'm pretty sure. I think she's just running a little bit late, but we do have Evan and John with us. I'll introduce you just in a second. I just want to say welcome to the Vintage Collection Show here on YouTube. We are going to be going through the March Madness top 25s in this video, or in this live stream. I plan to do some of these hopefully every week, going through different people in the communities, top 25s and what have you, building up to the all-important bracket in March Madness, which is always a lot of fun. I just want to say a massive thank you to Evan and to John for joining me today, because they are the guys, along with the rest of their team, that are behind the whole March Madness. So, John, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to see you again.
Good. Nice to see you. Thanks for having us. My eyes are glazing over from all the lists I've been looking at the last few days, and it's only just begun, but happy to do it. It's a fun event, and it's nice to be back at it again.
A lot of work. And how are you, Evan? You all right, mate? Good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, Tim. I'm doing all right. My eyes aren't glazing over as much as John's when it comes to pure data, but I will say that it's that time of year that I'm reminded that I am a quote-unquote fake fan when I read these lists, and I'm like, okay, who's that? I thought I knew Star Wars characters. Forget every year.
Yeah, but remember, Hasbro doesn't do deep cut characters, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
No. They also don't do main characters, so
Some of these, I'm sure people's cats are just walking across their keyboard, and then I look it up on Wikipedia, and it's like, oh no, that is a thing.
Yeah,
I've just never heard of it. But
my favorite's trying to make little graphics for it, and you type in the name, and all you can find is just like a grainy little background shot, and I'm like, and that's the guy. All right.
That's what it's all about. Yeah,
absolutely. And everybody gets to put who they want down without any people telling them that they're wrong or whatever, because that's what it's all about. It's about your personal top 25, what you want in the line. And we'll go over also with you guys. I think you might have some data, Evan, I hope, on some of the figures that did well in last year's that have been made this year. Not to say that they weren't in production already. I think we all know that, but just so that there's some kind of synergy going on there,
I believe, John, actually, you have more of the information for that than I do. So
I'll pull that up as we discuss other things. But
he said I was the math guy. He's a liar. So.
Well, I just want to say hello to all the people in the chat. We've already got 113 people watching, which is awesome. And Victoria's just turned up as well. I can just see her there. I'll bring you in a second, Victoria. I'm just going to say hello to a few people in the chats. We've got Just Capster, Star Wars Rue. We've got Des T, Ovi Bang Kenobi, Roy Dunkley, Paul Morales, Gary Moore, Bradley Harvey. This will take a long time for me to go through, guys, but I just want to give a shout out to as many of them as I can. Straight out of Coruscant, Jonathan Redmond, Flick, DTM Collectibles, Rolando Flores, Breton Fett, Daniel Chart. How you doing, buddy? Ben Swolo Collector 95, one of your pals, Evan. Rock City Sith, the Jedi Collector. Phil the Force, Adam Berry. So lots of my Patreon supporters and channel members coming in, which is awesome. Thank you for supporting us, guys. GA, Paul Morales, Brendan Draper. We've got Starkiller, Delvian Seek, John Lasseter, Toys of the Way, great channel on YouTube. Mando Brunt, Fuller's Figures. He's moderating, I think. Cheers, Connor. Appreciate that, buddy. TVC Macken. The Blacked Out Ewoks is here. Tom Charlton, Stephen Novak, Chronicles, Fractured Fett, Darth Wizzy Wizard. I'm going to have to stop there, guys. Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to bring Victoria in now. Welcome to the stream, Victoria. How are you? All right.
Hey, Tim. Hey, everybody.
Fashionably late.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. Everyone in the chat, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on, Victoria, of course. Big fan of the Vintage Collection, big voice out there in the community for the Vintage Collection. So you're always welcome. I'm not too sure if you saw the very beginning of the stream, but I've basically introduced Evan and John. Now I've introduced you. So we're going to crack on. Basically, we're going to go through, first of all, some of the figures that have already been pipelined, because I think some people that are putting out their lists are including some of the figures that have already been pipelined, and it's quite understandable because some of the pipeline figures were pipelined like 8 months ago. So we're just going to bring a slide up quickly. You can talk amongst yourselves while I do that because it's going to take me a while.
I've also sent you even more graphics of the figures that were made in the last year from the bracket. So,
oh, okay.
More visual aids. But hi, Victoria. Nice to see you again. Thanks for joining.
Good to see you, John.
Let's see. I have so many files and folders from the last 2 years of this event. So many lists and my list and everybody else's lists and.
Yeah, you guys are pretty incredible that you're able to maintain this every year. Like, you make it look easy, but I'm sure there's so much behind the scenes that we're not seeing.
If you all could see our personal text threads between each other, just like, what are we doing?
Right, can everybody see that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Can everyone see that on the screen?
Yes.
Right, so this is what's been pipelined already, right, John?
Yeah, so this is everything that we officially know about from Hasbro, including figures that they've put up for pre-order, figures that they've shown, and all the ones at the bottom, the last 2 rows for the most part, are the pipelined items, just to kind of give everybody a refresher on where we are of what to expect for the new year. Some of them have, of course, shown up on other card backs that Tim has gotten a hold of and things like that. But so if you really want Admiral Pietz, don't worry, he's coming. We know he's coming. You don't need to put him on your top 25 most wanted list. I do see people adding like the Tuscan Warrior or Cad Bane, which they will be awesome figures to have, but they are coming. So there is no need, as some may say, to ask for them. So,
yeah, because Piet was actually on the bracket last year, wasn't he? He made it.
He was,
into the bracket, didn't he? Into the 64.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
So that's one of the ones, obviously, that we're now getting, which is good.
Yeah, and Cad Bane has done well both previous years. It'll be interesting to see now that he's getting his new Book of Boba Fett appearance. If his older Clone Wars or Bad Batch looks will get on as well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But
yeah, so if somebody did put Cad Bane from Clone Wars, that's fine because it's essentially a different version of that figure, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or like and Cal Kestis did well before we saw his Jedi Survivor look. So his Jedi Fallen Order look did well the past 2 years, and now we're getting a Survivor look. So it's like, are we still? What's the interest level for a Fallen Order version still? I guess we'll have to see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, awesome. It's quite funny seeing how many figures are still like there, isn't there, in that list to come.
Yeah. You've probably got half of them already from getting your early figures.
I've got a few of them. Yeah. Don't get carried away, John. I've just
I've got half. I've got half of them because there are repacks on there. But yeah. Other than that,
that is very true. That is very true. Oh yeah, the Jabba's Goons are on there, aren't they? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I learned the other day that that is actually a wave, isn't it? Because usually those specialty waves are fan channel only, but I believe that is a wave, a proper wave that will be available everywhere. Like it could go to retail. That's what I heard anyway. So
yeah, and these repack waves, we've talked about them before, but it's always like sometimes they keep saying different things. Sometimes they're only fan channels, sometimes they're mainline, sometimes last year they said they were going to be on a separate peg and then they weren't. So who knows what'll happen with these guys? But yeah, it seems like a regular main wave for those guys. For now, who knows?
Well, they were mentioned too, as I remember when we asked them about it before they revealed them as a wave. They're like, yeah, we were going to pepper them into the main line. And it's like, oh, okay. So it'd be like one, nope, all in one go. So,
yeah. So it could mean that we do get an actual, proper repack wave, if that's what you want to call it, a specialty wave on top.
Because some of those repacks at the bottom, right, like Star Killer, Nine Nun, and the Weak Way, we don't know officially yet how they're coming, but we do know they're being repacked. So I assume those are some of the ones they're peppering in at some point. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah,
we will have to wait and see. I'm pretty sure Star Killer's in the first wave. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, so that's the list of what's coming. Some interesting things on there, I guess. I wish they would hurry up and show us Piet, because I really don't like it when something does come out and you see it on the back of the card. It's like, well, you've kind of missed the opportunity now to really sort of hit that one home. And just that one sort of grainy image that we have of Piet on the back of that card looks pretty decent. So it'd be nice if they just sort of said, well, it's out there now. Like, here's the images, like, give the reveal to some weird website or something. Just get it out there so we can all see it. I'm too impatient.
Yeah, in the best possible.
And that Phase 2 clone as well. But I'd imagine you're quite happy with that one, Victoria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it is interesting that they, when something leaks, and I'm thinking like back to like, I think was it Celebration or Comic-Con, where the Andor figures were on the back of the cards that were on display, and like they were officially like put on display by Hasbro, and then they just kind of like, oh, those don't exist until a few months later. It's funny.
Yeah.
I think we have a question about that in the upcoming Q&A. I guess we'll see what they say. But and then I see some people in the chat, they're asking about the Vader. As far as we know, I think that's a Return of the Jedi version. I'm sure it'll be the Obi-Wan Dark Times figure as a base, but I don't know if they confirmed it's going to have the removable helmet, but it is going to be a Return of the Jedi.
I'm pretty sure in the Q&A that I was in with Chris that they did say
right.
It's going to be a removable helmet. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Rather
They
than
told us that too.
Yeah.
So it's not. I said somebody thought it could be an Obi-Wan battle damaged version, which would be awesome, and they love to reuse their tooling. So I'm sure it's coming at some point. But yeah, we shall see.
Okay, so there's 158 watching. If you are watching, hit the like button on the video on the live stream, and let us know in the comments. Obviously you've submitted your lists, hopefully either on my video that I put out the other day or on the various sites that have put out places for you to submit your lists. I know, Victoria, you've done it, haven't you, on Instagram, and obviously SWTVC Instagram. You've got Chris from Banter Skull. You can submit it there if you often frequent that website. Loads of people involved this time around, aren't they, Evan? You've got a load of people to sort of chime in and help you out.
Yeah, we wanted to make this cast as wide a net as possible, make this as expansive and inclusive as possible. And again, my eternal gratitude to my teammate John for just absolutely crushing it on reaching out to people. We've been trying to make this as smooth as possible, where we try to handle everything on the back end so that folks such as yourself, Tim, and Victoria, all you have to do is just be like, hey guys, what do y'all want? And then we'll distill the information from there. So
yeah, I kind of like that, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We've got, but it's nice to have all these places for people to submit, because of course not everybody's on Instagram or whatever. And I still see comments saying, I'm not on Instagram, where can I submit? And it's like, if you're commenting that's probably a place where you can submit your list. If I'm seeing that, if somebody's talking about it, you can submit your list there. I'll find it. The Facebook group is another big one we haven't mentioned yet, but and Jedi Temple Archives put up their list article yesterday. Rebel Scum forums, lots of stuff happening. So there's probably a way for you to send your list in. We have about 300 currently, so I'm sure some people watching haven't submitted their list yet. So go do it.
And sorry, what did you have last year total?
We had about 435-ish lists last year. Which I think the first year we only had
there's plenty of time.
Yeah, it's only been less than a week that they've been up. So
just real quick too, with the voting this year too for March Madness, when we get to it, anybody that's I see a comment going by like, I don't like Instagram. Gotcha. Don't worry about it with the voting. It'll also be, we're going to make effort to have it be similar to the top 25 of, you can vote. You don't have to have Instagram to do any of this stuff. It's not about Instagram, it's about the community as a whole. So we want to make this accessible for everyone and include everybody.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm just saving these images that you've sent me, John.
Okay.
Because I'll just pull those up now before we move on to one of you guys' lists. So let me just bring up that image very quick.
Don't lead with mine.
Why ever not?
People will be like, smash that unsubscribe button and leave.
Because mine has all the heavy hitters that everybody wants. Like, well, you'll see. Mine's totally normal.
Right.
But
okay,
I see
let me-
people talking. Yeah. So the first year, Bo-Katan was the #1 most wanted figure in the submissions, initial submissions, and in the bracket. And then last year, Dooku was #1, but Chrysanthemum won the bracket. Yeah, and these are the figures that, as of when I made it a few months ago, the ones that had been made from the 2022 top 100. I kind of expanded it past the 64 in the bracket. But yeah, so people wanted Mando, Luke, Cal Kestis, both the Bespin security guards, the Dark Trooper, Hunter, Nomad, Boba, and then the 4 pipeline guys at the bottom, 2 of which we have seen since then. But I guess there haven't been a lot of announcements since then, so I haven't had to update it. But yeah.
I mean, just looking at some of the lists that I've seen, looking through people's submissions online, I haven't gone through a great deal, but I've gone through enough, and there is a lot of the 4 main heroes from A New Hope, which does please me, because they're on my list. So hopefully it will be, sort of a good indicator that, like, a lot of people want those. So so let me just bring up the other slide. I'll stop sharing that one because there's one more for what we've already had, isn't there? So let me just
First year.
the first year, right? Okay. So you're telling me that I did them in the wrong year, then? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, we're going starting fresh and moving backwards. I guess we're doing a prequel now.
Okay. Let me share this window. Here we go. There you go. All right. There's a lot more on this one, isn't there?
Yeah.
So obviously the Bespin guards, they're on both there. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I think they were announced shortly after the submissions for this past year or something like that. So they made the top 100, but didn't. Yeah, there were some that, like, they come out in between when we get the lists and when they're voted upon in the bracket. And some of them, like, people would say Death Watch, Mandalorian, and we kind of combine the Clone Wars and Mandalorian season 1 versions, and then Hasbro actually made both versions, which was cool to see this year. Yeah, so there's quite a few on that list that have been made. And again, like you said, a lot of them were probably in production as the lists were going on, but it's nice. So for some of that, it's nice for Hasbro to look at and sort of see where the priorities are of at least the collectors who choose to participate. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're on the right track. We are making these figures that people want to see. And so they can it's nice to see when we're in tune, as much as people give them grief for not knowing what collectors want or whatever. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you want your say, then submit your top 25. Basically, it's as clear as it can be, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Can't complain after January 31st if you didn't submit your list. You have the right to complain after that point if you have submitted your list, but we're not taking complaints if you didn't submit a list. So
I just know in March, the previous March Madnesses, you'd get inevitably the comments of who made this list, like who put these there, and it's like, haha, you did, you all did. So
right, let's move on to our lists, and I'm going to start with you, Victoria, if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it.
So I'm going to bring up your list now. Let me just see if I can do that.
Apologies in advance if I got any of the images or character appearances wrong on your list, Victoria.
That's right. Oh, that looks really cool. And apologies on my end because the gardeners decided, hey, Victoria's doing a live stream. Let's show up right now. So that's going on out there, just in case you can hear it.
We've got the mower. Is that a mower going, is it, or something like that? That's all right. So do you want to just sort of talk through your thoughts behind your choices and, obviously they're hopefully in order of importance to you, and maybe just give us some insight into maybe why you think they'll do well, or just, or whatever, just some general thoughts on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I thought about my top 25, I thought about what is needed that isn't in our collections yet. Like if they were going to end the line, which, you know, we hope never happens, if they were going to end the line and they needed to give us 25 figures that are basically just holes in the collection that like absolutely need to be filled, what would that look like? And to me, this is what I kind of based my list around. So, I mean, there's other characters I'd love to see. There's more Cantina aliens, Jabba's Palace aliens that I'd personally love to see before some of these. But as far as what I feel is needed, that's what I wanted to do here. And most of these are just kind of, you know, we have a scene on the shelf, or we have this vehicle, and we have these figures that go along with it, but we don't have, you know, X, Y, and Z yet. And Kira is my number one pick. We have Lando, we have Han. I know one of them doesn't have the photo reel, so it's kind of a weird, you know, matchup, but we need Kira. She's kind of like, she's one of the big three of that movie, Solo. So we really need that figure. It would look stunning. I know that they actually tooled it up for both scales, and they just never released them. So that one, Tonika's, I mean, no surprise there. I mean, they're really prominent characters. So it's not just that I want them. They are prominent, the most prominent Cantina characters that have not been made. So even more prominent than a lot of them that they have made. So, you know, we need those. Velkin, if John's watching, he'll be happy to see him on the list. That's another thing. We have the skiff, right? But we don't have that one figure we need to finish that little scene.
Absolutely.
The A New Hope characters were really important to me because, you know, gosh, the last ones came out over 20 years ago, I guess, when you look at Leia and Luke and Han. And I mean, that's just unacceptable. You know, the modern Star Wars line came back in 1995. Here we are in 2023, and the last ones are done in 2004. To me, that's just wrong. So we really need to have definitive versions, and they need to do them all at once. I know that Chris previously mentioned from Bantha School that, you know, they can't drag them out, because if they do that, they may innovate some little bit of articulation or detail, and then they're not going to fit with each other. And that's not what we want. They got to do them all in one fell swoop. So they need to do those four. Cobb Vanth, you know, he's in Black Series. He needs to be in TVC as well.
I wanted to ask you about that Cobb Vanth, actually, if you don't mind. So are you, because I can't see the written description for that. So do you want him with Boba's armor, or do you want him to go with the Book of Boba Fett Cad Bane in his normal attire, or do you want like maybe one that had like clippable armor on or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the best if they do what they did in Black Series and sculpt him with the armor and then give him the helmet. Right. I'd love to have both versions, and I know they could pull, you know, a 30th anniversary collection trick where they would give you the snap-on armor like they did for Jango Fett, but at this point, it's not going to look great. So
no.
That'd be my ideal. If they're going to do him just once, and it's probably going to be just once, then, you know, make the more definitive, at least at this point in time, version of Cobb Vanth, and I think that would require having that armor.
Mm-hmm.
The others, the Rogue One crew, you know, we still need some of them. So I put them on there. The Client, you know, we got the Navarro Cantina. That's like the one figure we don't have that we really need. And also, you know, we do need in his main outfit, gosh, the name's escaping me at the moment.
Grief Karga.
Yes, him, that guy.
Yeah.
We need him in his season 1 outfit. And
is he on your list? He's not on there.
He's not on my list. No, he's not.
But yeah, you're right. We do need him.
Yeah. Other than Client. The Inquisitors, you know, we have Reva, we have this awesome Vader, we have, you know, a couple of versions of Obi-Wan, but we don't have the other Inquisitors. I know they're in Black Series, and it just seems kind of criminal that they're not in TVC. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what you thought about those characters or the interpretations of them, they would be cool. I mean, they're, you know, they have their red lightsabers, and any Sith type figure or Jedi type figure is always a hit. So I feel like those are important. Rogue One again, Director Krennic, that seems like a big missing hole in the collection. Dryden Boss, we need a villain for our solo characters to fight. And then I go into some of the sequel trilogy characters here because, you know, we do need those characters. We have an awesome post X-Wing, and all that I have in front of it is like Rey and, you know, Poe Dameron in his X-Wing outfit. And I mean, that's cool, but, you know, we need some main characters from some of those movies. And I think Han Solo, I was thinking about yesterday, and I was like, you know, why don't we have that Han Solo? I mean, that's like his, you know, Han Solo being the character that he is in Star Wars as a whole. and that being like his like one of his now definitive outfits, I feel like, for his character. And he doesn't exist in TVC. There's a 5 POA version, and they did in the Black Series 3 3/4, the one with the jacket, but that's not the right look. I'm shocked that they haven't done that quite yet. So
it is odd, isn't it, when they give you the character but in like an outfit that he just isn't in much. Like, you know, he's in that other outfit far more in the film, surely, isn't he?
Right, absolutely.
It's a bizarre thing, and you know,
I don't know if that's why they wanted to.
Sorry, John. The characters that he interacts with at the time of being in that blue outfit, we don't have either. Like, well, we do in the 3.75-inch Black Series. We had Finn, but we don't in the Vintage Collection either. So, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, sorry, totally. John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, if I can add to the Han talk real quick. I think, because they made the this jacket version in the 5 POA line, and then they're like, we need to do something different for the Black Series one, so that's why they gave him the Starkiller base coat, I guess. I don't know. But they did just give him a new head and repack him in the Archive Black Series line. So, you know, they still think he's viable at retail. They still think they can do this version. So maybe, we don't know what the indoor Han is going to look like, but maybe they can use his legs, or, you know, once they get the New Hope version out, maybe they can reuse some parts for a Force Awakens version or something. But it would be cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to say a big thanks to A. Montoya for the super sticker. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. Glad you're enjoying the stream. I just wanted to talk about, because before seeing your list, Victoria, I did think that the Tonica sisters would be your number one. So I wasn't surprised to see. Sorry, excuse me. I wasn't surprised to see Kira on the list, but I was surprised to see her above the Tonica sisters. But I totally agree with you. I mean, I actually really like the Solo film. I know a lot of people don't. I much prefer it to the sequel. You know, if you said to me, do you want Solo or sequel trilogy, it would be Solo every time. But she looks great in that outfit. You know, it'd make an awesome figure. 100%.
And a card back would be awesome too.
And you mentioned that they tooled it up. Did you say that?
In both scales, yeah. But after what happened with Solo, and then, you know, the other media that came out, it just never happened. So I mean, it's doable. It's just, you know, finding that right opportunity to do it.
Because there's the 5 POA version of her in that 4-pack, like the Vandor 1 4-pack or whatever, and her coat kind of changes. Her jacket opens and closes, and she has a skirt or pants or whatever, and then obviously the awesome cape. But so, you know, they have the digital sculpt at the very, very least. We know that. So if you say they have the other stuff,
that 5 POA one, you don't get the cape though, right? Is that, if I remember rightly? Is it she's just in the white? Is that right?
Yeah, no cape.
Yeah, and Sam asked a question like, why isn't Dooku on my list? And, you know, I thought about this a lot because I know a lot of people want Dooku, and I agree. He's hugely important. The only reason he's not on here is because, like I said, my list focuses on what has not been done correctly. And I think Dooku, maybe we don't have a definitive Dooku yet, but he would be like number 26 or 27 if the list could have kept on going, because he is an important one. But I feel like the ones that we have are pretty decent. They may not be on TVC cards, but I base this list more on what is essential for the line as loose figures rather than carded. So that would be my justification for why Dooku isn't on here.
Can I just interject real quick and say, Victoria, 18 of your 25 are present in modern standard definitive versions in the Black Series.
Scary.
He's pulling stats straight out the air, Evan. Like, he's got them all written down, hasn't he?
No.
If somebody says this, I've got this ready. Nah, mate, you're good. That's awesome. That is unbelievable, isn't it? 18. Wow.
But we're having all the fun, though.
The last one I just want to kind of touch on real quick is Kylo Ren, because, you know, they did do a Force Awakens version, but to me, this is one of these that would be perfect in doing like the deluxe format, because then you could include the alternate heads, the alternate helmets, and then you could maybe have a way to just modify him to get Evan his Ben Solo, if they did that deluxe treatment on that particular character.
Because he wears he doesn't change his pants, right? He just takes the armor off of, I don't know what he does.
Yeah, it's just the shirt. It's his boots, and his pants and boots are the same, and it's just his undershirt with a little hole in it, as he's a good boy who had been stabbed. So
at some point he takes a trip to Gap.
Yeah.
At some point. Then.
Yeah.
At some point in the film. To be honest, I actually like, as much as the sequels aren't my favorite thing, Kylo Ren, I think is, he looks awesome. And I really like the Force Awakens figure as well. I think I did videos with Nick, Only One Kenobi, where we're going through our favorites. And for the sequel trilogy, he's out of all of the sequel trilogy ones that we've got so far, that Force Awakens Kylo is my favorite out of all of them. I think he's great, but I do like the baddies in TVC. I don't think we get enough of them, like Krennic and things like that, Although
Right.
I can't remember now, but I don't think Krennic's on my list. It's like, wow, forgot about Krennic. It is difficult to whittle it down to 25, though, I've got to say. But
yeah, it is. And straight out of Coruscant said, "Where's the BB-8?" I mean, that's a good point. The BB-8s we have aren't the best, but he exists, right? There is a BB-8 that you could use that fits in Poe's X-wing and is suitable. And I will go to my grave, kind of hammering on Hasbro for not using that opportunity when they made that X-wing to put BB-8 in there on a TVC card. That would have been the opportunity to do it.
yeah.
Disney Parks has one. It's not obviously not TVC, but it's their Droid Factory line. There's an individually carded BB-8, kind of like they did for Chopper and now B2 EMO. That's something, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a decent figure too.
Mhm.
Yeah, the B2 Emo's all right. It goes well with
Yeah.
that new Andor that we've got. It's the only figure that does go with that new Andor that we've got, but, or that's coming for it's in the next wave or what have you.
I'll say, if I can say on Kylo real quick, there's also, I know Evans, I think the other day we were talking about that. There's that value line that's like 9 inches at grocery stores and Walgreens and stuff, which came out within the last year, but Kylo's in that. Obviously, the tooling is probably a lot cheaper than for a TVC figure, but again, they are merchandising the Supreme Leader in. He's in every other scale. He's in, like you said, he's in Mission Fleet. He's in Galaxy of Adventures. He's in
every other scale and every other line.
Yeah, so be a cool one to have.
Ken Plume, thank you, buddy. Just sending a shout out to all and for general support. Cheers, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. That's awesome. Yes, good list. Obviously, everyone has their own opinions, so there are many on that list that I probably have on my list. I think some that I don't, but I can certainly see the reasons behind your choices and everything. I think with the Inquisitors, I'm pretty sure I only put the Grand Inquisitor and didn't put the other two. Just from a space point of view, but I agree, it would be lovely to have all three. 2 of them are in the retro collection, for God's sake. So it's like, what the hell?
That pesky retro collection.
I know. That's just crazy, isn't it? But I think I put the Grand Inquisitor. So I think he out of the 3 is the most important one. And also he crosses over, doesn't he, to Rebels. Does actually number 15, is he the 4th brother? Is that what he's called?
5th brother.
5th brother. He's in Rebels as well, isn't he? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe is number 14. Is she in Rebels? I've only ever seen Rebels. It's been a long time since I've seen Rebels. Basically, I don't.
Because in the first season, there's the Grand Inquisitor. He's just called the Inquisitor in that season, and then in the second season, we get the 5th brother with the 7th sister, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and then she has not shown up in live action yet. And then the games and everything else have other Inquisitors too, but
yeah. Okay, so who would like to have their list dissected next?
I think Evan would love to have it.
Yeah,
I'm so excited about it.
I apologize in advance to you 3 and everyone.
No apologies. It's
a
fine list.
It's my list. It's what I want. I know it's not what some of you may want, so that's why we all do our own lists. I hope you've done your top 25 lists, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I see lots of people in the comments suggesting figures to be on the lists. Put them on your list and submit your lists right now.
Right, has that been shared? There we go. Okay then, Evan, take it away, buddy.
All right. So while yes, big, elephant in the room with all the OT stuff, specifically the main characters from A New Hope. I know Obi-Wan Kenobi from A New Hope was on my list in previous years. I've had Hammerhead on my previous lists as well. I approached my list just really focusing on new media, things that have never, ever, ever been done before, or as Victoria had mentioned, things that hadn't been done properly. So most of the things on my list are things that just full stop do not exist in the 3 3/4 inch scale. And I also know that because the A New Hope mains and a lot of the OT stuff is the main priority for a lot of people, I had no fear that even without my measly little points on my list, they'll still probably make the bracket. They'll still probably perform just fine without me. So I wanted to give some points to things that may otherwise be overlooked by most people, which is odd because I look at my list. Yeah. I look at my list though, and I point at, I'm like, those are almost all main characters. So I don't know what to do about that. So but yeah, I really loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know that's a hot take for some. I loved it. Want some more figures from it. Particularly the Obi-Wan look from the very end, the finale, his kind of mythos inspired look. Sideshow has a great statue of that. I love
brilliant.
any arc in that, that tattered note like that. Sleeveless. He's ripping off the sleeves, sleeveless robe, little gloves, all that. I think that would be a great figure. It's my number one want. Obi-Wan's my favorite character. And if they did tool up this figure all new, they would then have a great base generic prequel style Jedi tunic body to work off of for any other Jedi characters that they want to approach. It could be, they could take the torso from this version and then slap on the Wandering Jedi legs to call it the Jabim version, so that we could have that to actually fight with the incredible Dark Times Vader we have.
That's my pitch is to do that. I mentioned it to you that my pitch is to do it the other way, because then they can just add a new torso to the Wandering Jedi Obi-Wan, call that a partial tool, and then add new legs to that version, and then get out the Mythos version. But
regardless, they're gonna have to tool up all the parts at some point. So,
but you know how they love to share and do
drip feed.
Yes.
So needless to say, I just
an all new figure. Let's not get our hopes too high up. Okay, one all new figure. We gotta have
well.
Top 25 are built on hope, John. So that's what we've got here. So of course, little Leia from the series. I mean, good God, the fact that they didn't even make an attempt to pipeline her or assure anybody she was coming in any line after that show came out is odd to me. It's freaking Princess Leia, guys. I loved her in that show. I thought she was great. I think she'd be great in the line. Tales of the Jedi was also something I ended up really loving, particularly especially the Count Dooku episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I know we need a definitive Darth Tyrannus, Sith Lord Dooku as he appears in the actual films. Yes, that's absolutely something I also omitted from my list, having no fear he would perform well based on everybody's general lists as well. He didn't need me to help him. But this way, if they did, Jedi Count Dooku, all they'd have to do is then make 2-3 different heads for it, and they could milk it, get a couple releases for his even younger version, whatever they want to do with it. I just loved it. I never really cared about Dooku too much in general. But Tales of the Jedi, something just hit and it clicked for me, and I really loved watching his turn. You'll notice Yaddle is on there as well at spot number 10, so that they can fight. That was probably the highlight of that entire series. Would love a great modern definitive Yaddle figure. Bryce Dallas Howard, awesome voice. Just celebrate the people behind the scenes as well, in a way different than just slapping a head of the director on an already existing figure. So what can you do? I don't know. Of course, some sequel love on here. Yes, boo hiss, I know. Some Andor love, definitely. And then Visions, even though it's probably the lowest of all of my priorities in general for Star Wars properties in the Vintage Collection. The Ronin is just such a cool character design that's even if it was the only thing we got from Visions, I would be content with just that single figure. I don't need him to really interact with anything, just because he's that cool looking as a standalone piece, as Visions is a standalone piece already itself.
And
so
that episode was blatantly the best for me anyway.
Oh yeah, it started off strong. So
yeah.
I did put Markion Rowe from the High Republic. He has been on my list the past couple of years. I'm a big fan of the High Republic.
What number's he, Evan? Because it's small on my screen. Sorry.
He's number 13. A guy with the
13,
big
right.
red
Right
eye in the
middle.
middle of his face. So I kept him since he's a pretty unique character. He wouldn't be able to use pieces from others. I did have initially some High Republic Jedi on this, but what I'm gonna do is I left them off this year because I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that maybe with the Acolyte show dipping into the High Republic era and costume styles, maybe we'll see a figure that could be repurposed from that to make some Jedi from that era. I don't know. So yeah, that's it. And of course, Ben Solo on there. There it is. Need I say more? So.
And that's the classic look for him there, right there, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Everybody loves Ben Solo. So.
I wanted to ask, and I know I asked you, and I forgot to ask for Victoria, but which figures from your previous lists have been made so far? If you have that ready.
Funny you should ask. So my 2021 top 25, I got 8 of those have been made since. So from when I made that list in January of 2021 to now, 8 of them have been made. Those were Ahsoka Tano Corvus, Boba Fett Morak, Dark Trooper, Emperor Palpatine from Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian, Bo-Katan Kryze, Fennec Shand, and IG-11. So that was neat. Happy to see those. 2022 was a little rougher for my top picks. Of my top 25, 1 of them has been made since, and that's Paz Vizsla.
All right.
And how many do you think are going to be made from this list?
0. Absolute 0. I think there's a better chance of them making 1,000 characters in one go, and I would guarantee 0 of these would be part of that. So
I really hope not, because there's definitely some on there that I think I've heard Victoria say that Andor isn't toyetic, and Chris has also said that, and I do kind of agree with that. It's there's not a slew of like action and Jedis and all the things that you usually associate Star Wars with in that show, but there is still some like characters like you said about like a standalone that character from Visions, just like Luthen, he's so cool that I've just got to have him in action figure form,
Yeah,
and I think he made my list as well.
Yeah, his ship.
He's just like one of the best for me. He's one of like the best Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
His dialogue, just everything about him. He's just the actor, just amazing. So, yeah.
And number 12, I just wanted to specify. I didn't forget Asajj Ventress on my list. That is her at number 12, in her kind of redeemed Jedi-ish, not Jedi look from Dark Disciple, the book based off of an unused story for the Clone Wars, with her yellow lightsaber, which Disney Parks has made. So you can get the lightsabers of most of these characters on my list from the parks, but you can't get action figures of them. That's for sure. So
usual Mike is saying even Evan, I would like to see at least half a dozen on this list made. It's a great list. And just a point on that, we're only asking for 25, so it's very difficult. I mean, I'm not going to lie, there are some figures or characters on your list that I perhaps wouldn't choose. They might not even make my top 50, but that's the point, isn't it? It's like there could be someone there which would be like my 26, 27, 28, and that's still quite high up in somebody's estimation of what they want.
Yeah.
Narrowing it down to 25 is very difficult. You've got to be quite brutal with what you want and what have you.
Well, you look at every list I've looked at, every single character on every list, I'm like, I would buy that character. I want that figure. That's what makes it so hard. It's like, there's no, I would buy them all. I want them all. They look great. They would look great. So
I have some,
and you've got Finn there. Is that Rise of Skywalker Finn, is it?
Yes.
Right.
And not to jump ahead, but I have some on my list from some Rise of Skywalker figures on my list, and I struggled with not putting Jedi training Luke and Leia on there because they would be awesome. They would make for awesome figures.
Yeah.
And I think Yaddle, I've seen some customs of You know, we have the older Yaddle that's like a salt shaker figure that bends in half. She can do ab crunches, but that's about it. They could take a Yoda figure and just sculpt a new head and do a new robe and stuff. Maybe, you know, or a new scarf or whatever. But I think that's within the realm of possibility. Whether they choose to do that is another story. But
there are 3 Leias on my list. I'm looking at that. So I think that goes to show that Hasbro's not making enough Leias.
Well, and a lot of people actually do have young Leia on their list. I will say that she's shown up a lot. So I guess haven't tabulated anything yet, but it'll be interesting to see where she lands.
Yeah, could you imagine them charging like $17.99 for her though? That's the thing, isn't it? It's like it's got to come with something like more. Yeah,
do some more Lolas and
yeah, more Lolas. Yeah. Repack alert.
Speaking of repack, so like with Dedra Miro from Andor being on my list, I debated on whether to put her or Tala from Obi-Wan on the list, just because they would fulfill the same role of, you know, getting a base female Imperial officer sculpt, and then one could be reworked to create the other. You know, approaching the list of trying to hold Hasbro's hand and make it as easy as possible for them to squeeze as many different things out of whatever they tool up new, to make more diverse offerings in general of, you know, hitting more media properties, hitting more different characters, as opposed to ARC Trooper number 1000 and Boba repaint number, you know, whatever, wherever we're at. So,
yeah. Okay, has anybody got any other comments about Evan's list of 25 before we move on to John?
That's a good list. There's several things on there that were on my list as well. So, you know, it's nice to see that, you know, there's some agreement in what should be prioritized in this line. So we'll see.
Yeah, right. Let me just stop that for a second, and then I will.
So I won't apologize like Evan did, but I will preface by saying it's very strange, and I apologize for nothing. So
I just want to be liked, and I hate that my tastes are terrible.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any weirdness on my list. So let's see how.
Here we go.
Smuggler's Canyon. I got Frog Lady and so much more on this list.
So number one, I knew this. I knew it'd be Simalu. You had Simalu last. Have you done that every year? Number one
every year, yeah. Because so a lot of its things on this list are kind of representative of other things, I think. So number one, of course, Simalu finished the 96. He's the only Kenner figure from the original original vintage days that has not been updated since the 80s. So it would be great to get him. I don't care if he has, you know, Lando's legs under that robe. I don't care if he's soft goods. I don't care if I don't care if he's 0 POA, can't move at all, salt shaker figure. We need him in the line. I think this is the year to do it. I think, you know, when else are they going to have the opportunity to celebrate Return of the Jedi? Unless it's for 10 years from now. What, Evan?
I'm going to laugh so hard when they do Simalu this year, but for the retro collection.
Yeah, it'll be the special, like with some board game or something. Won't it?
Yeah, on the foil card. Yeah, he's a special. Yeah, love it. Or yeah, my other fear is that they're going to tool up a $700 Imperial shuttle, and he'll be the pack in on a card, and you have to get two to open him up. But we'll see. Still hoping. Obviously, not the most exciting character in and of himself, but because of the heritage to the line, I think he is important to the vintage collection. And there's plenty of other finished the 96 figures, of course. I don't have them on my list, I don't think. Yes, I will say about the A New Hope 4, who are not on my list, but I do want them. I wrote up a whole script. Everyone's always asking, where are they? Why hasn't Hasbro done these? You know, and when they launched super articulated modern figures on vintage cards, they were the first 4 that they did. They were the very first thing they got out in 2004. I know that was almost 20 years ago now, but I think for the first few years of the vintage collection, 2010 to 2012, they sort of looked at the VOTC and VTSC lines as like the precursor, as like the spiritual, you know, predecessor, kind of all part of the same thing. So I think that's why they didn't do them then. I know they kind of updated them in 2009 Legacy Collection here and there. And then, so it's only really been a thing now since 2018 that people, I think, really want them and are missing them. I guess maybe that's sort of what I'm thinking about that. But yeah,
Well, I just think, you know, when you're talking about the numbered line, we're up to VC 270 something or whatever,
yeah,
and none of them are those 4 heroes. I find that bizarre, and then I also find it bizarre that they're happy to, you know, redo some of the other Saga collection ones like Leia,
sure, yeah,
Endor, and what have you. You know, so they're happy to do that.
yeah, because
You know, that was just easy for them, wasn't it? It's hardly an update at all. Let's be frank.
They give her a new head and new soft goods, or with the Scout Trooper, it's new legs and a new head and stuff like that. Or the Tusken Raider got new arms with the elbows.
Yeah, so I think it's understandable that obviously Leia, Luke, Han, and Ben need to be all new, you know, and that's why they're on so many people's lists.
Well,
But
they
yeah.
also can't stop releasing those characters for the Black Series. I know
Well,
they're
yeah.
present in the main line. Then they get repacked in the anniversary lines every time. They show up in the archive line. They've had Black Series collectors have had like 4 or 5 opportunities at each one of those guys in the past few years.
And I don't know if it's because they've released them so many times, but like the last round, to my eyes and on sales, they did not do that well. Like Luke and Han on their Power of the Force cards, you know, they were at Disneyland for cheap. Leia was, you know, cheap in the archive collection. She went to Ross a couple years ago when she was in the black box look. So I don't know. Lando obviously didn't do well when they packed him 3 per case and overshipped the crap out of that wave. But so I don't know if those are the factors that they're kind of thinking of why they're not doing these guys. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think they need to look at like the Vader, you know, and it's not even an original trilogy Vader. It's an Obi-Wan Vader, but it's literally the best Vader that we've got. Everybody universally loves that figure. It sells like hotcakes. I think there's a big difference between that and, you know, what you've mentioned there, really. But
I mean, I don't know. I guess now we're getting the new-ish Endor Han this year, so I'm interested to see what parts they can reuse for a New Hope version. I'm assuming that one. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
But I'm really intrigued with what they do.
Yeah, and I assume this year for
thinking about that. What are they going to do with that?
I'll get off my New Hope soapbox in a second, and I'll talk about the real important stuff like Canadis and Lumpy. But I've got to read out Daniel charts. He says Admiral Holdout number 7. Surely he's having us on. Now I know Daniel is not a fan of the sequel trilogy.
You don't say.
But I'm not sure if I've seen Holdo on anyone else's list. That's all I'm saying.
She's on a handful of lists. I will say Victoria, as a fellow Jurassic Park fan, I think Laura Dern is awesome, and she's a great actress. She's a great, you know, personality in all these movies, and I think she's awesome. Number 7 and number 13, both Holdo and Dryden Voss, to me, are kind of representative of their Black Series figures. Came out right when Hasbro stopped, you know, doing all the figures in 3 3/4, whether they were 5 POA or whatever. So those are 2 that, like, they should have done them then. I don't really expect that they'll come out, but she's sort of, to me, a symbol of of the balance of scales, of get them out when they're new, and then, you know, they'll either sell or they won't. But yeah. But thanks. It's bold. Everyone's saying it's bold. I apologize for that.
It's a bold list.
John, your list being so wild, let's also take a second to appreciate that 8 of these exist in modern definitive versions in the 6-inch scale.
Jeez. All right, so I'll go through number. I'll start at 25 though, even though we already got some loot. Lumpy. You know, I looked at my last few lists. I realized there was a massive error. I had no holiday special figures on the list. I'll say Lumpy was going to be in the Kinner line back in the day. They canceled it for some unknown reason, but Lumpy and Mullet and Itchy were planned, and they never came out. So I think, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for all the weirdness of Star Wars, of course. Number 24, like you mentioned, Grief or the Client. It's kind of like we need them both for the Cantina. I prefer Grief a little bit. He's got a little more use, even though I love Werner Herzog and the Client. I do think they can. What they did for the Black Series, they took the season 1 Grief and turned him into the season 2 version. And then, so I think they could do the opposite for Vintage Collection at some point. Jazz, she's not even on Laura Dern's list. Well, she should be.
Jazz. There's a meme there, isn't there?
Number 23, Theranet. We all know Theranet, obviously Red 10. Who doesn't know all his great moments? But he is one of the pilots from A New Hope that back in pre-Vintage Collection days or around 2010, they made so many of the Rebel pilots from all the movies. They made almost every speaking pilot from the Battle of Yavin except for him. Just put a new head on the Luke body or whatever and call it a day, in my opinion. Another thing, I just like finishing these, subsets, like the Rebel pilots, the Navarro Cantina, the Skiff with number 22, Valken Tazeri.
I'm just trying to see that pilot. Is he the switch to front deflector shit? Is that him?
To targeting computer. That's
Oh,
Tyree,
yeah.
but this guy
Oh,
is
right.
in a. He does have
Pretty
quite a few
small.
lines. He does have quite a few lines in the movie. He's an X-wing pilot. There's a few others that kind of appear in the battle, but they don't talk or they get blown up, or it's a lot of editing weirdness going on in that battle if you look closely. But yeah. 21 Huang. We talked a lot about him last year. I talked a lot about him last year. Nobody else did, but he was. Spoiler alert: he was in the leaked Ahsoka trailer, so he's actually going to be appearing in the Ahsoka series.
Oh,
So
right.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, so that actually gave a bump to the possibility that maybe Disney Parks will make him as a figure, I guess. I don't know. Some of these, so number 6, Finn, number 14, Poe, and number 20, the Jet Trooper from the They Fly Now scene in Rise of Skywalker. That's just a little mini beat they could do. Those are some of the ones that I wish they had done when Rise of Skywalker came out. It's still nuts that Finn isn't in the Vintage Collection at all as one of the main heroes of 3 of the 9 movies. For the Jet Trooper, at least they did the Sith version, but they'd have to, and they kind of fudged it in Black Series because the red one has a bunch of lions on his armor, the white one doesn't, so they kind of used one for both. They could sort of do the opposite. I'd prefer they didn't, but yeah, I don't know. Number 17, Andrew Cook's talking about Padme. I think, the Phantom Menace, almost all of her looks are in some form or fashion, other than the handmaiden look, which was made as Rabe, or her cloak over the Senate gown. But, there's still a lot of great looks from 2 and 3 that we need. That's just kind of one of them. A lot of people have the Arena Padme on their list, but I think the Black Series one isn't that bad. 3 3/4 one. For Andor, I struggled a lot with what to put on there because I do want Dedra, I want Bix, I want Mon Mothma. But Kino Lloyd, I think that the Prison Break episode was just so fantastic and I sort of thought that they could reuse his body if they wanted to. I don't know how many barefoot prisoner action figures they're going to make, but
a 230 pack.
Yeah. You need one. Yeah, have a play set with the Death Star parts they're putting together, and that's a Death Star play set. That's as close as we're going to get.
You need some armbands for him as well, don't you? So,
yeah.
You probably don't call them armbands, do you?
I don't know what we call them.
Those blow up things to help you swim,
Oh yes, the
what are they called?
Pool floaties or something.
Oh my word! Okay.
Water wings.
Water wings. There you go.
Yeah, poor guy. A little ducky life raft around his waist. But so from Andor, I also have Luthen on the list because, like you, I just thought he was an amazing character. He's at number 2. He replaced Hunter on my list because Hunter's getting made. If they wanted to, they could make his speeder bike that then the Cassian figure that we have could fit on there. They need to make his Fondor Hallcraft, which was just awesome. Had one of the best action scenes in the show. I hope there's going to be a lot more of that in season 2. If they start working on it now, maybe the figures and ships can come out when season 2 hits. I don't know how likely that is, but it would be awesome. Some of this other stuff, I don't need to go over every single one, but number 9, her bounty hunter, Ventress's bounty hunter look from the end of the Clone Wars is actually, I think, very similar to her Dark Disciple look. I'm sure they were just going to update the hair or whatever.
under the
Under
cloak.
the robe.
Yeah, under the robe. It's I think pretty much the same outfit. So
Okay. They're probably going to reuse the animation model or whatever.
and they already have the
but
sculpt for her lightsaber because they made it for Mandalore Mall since they somehow ended up with the same hilt. So
true. But so figures like her, and then Tim's favorite number 4 Pong Krell and Huang, those are some of the ones that, again, I wish they had made in the Clone Wars line when they were doing the Clone Wars figures. Same with Kitster and Wald from episode 1, Klieg-Lars from episode 2. Those are sort of like, we can kind of close the chapter on those collections, I feel, because those are some of the more missing figures from those movies, I guess. Same with Holdo and Dryden Voss, I guess. But yeah.
I was just about to ask you about number 3, actually, and your whole sort of thought process about picking your 25, because again, the screens, you know, I'll probably need my glasses on, but I thought number 3 was Echo, because his arm almost looks like it's missing, but it's not. It's Crosshair, isn't it? In his Imperial, is that right?
Yeah.
So have you not put any of the actual Bad Batch down because they're doing Hunter? You're kind of thinking that they're going to get to them. Is that right?
Yeah, similar to Simalu. You know, that's kind of the representation of, okay, I want the Bad Batch. So last year I put Hunter as number 2 and Crosshair as number 3. So I said, you know, instead of putting Wrecker or Tech or Echo, hopefully Hunter is a sign that, you know, they're on their radar. Again, of course, when they did Chirrut 3 years ago, we thought Baze would be shortly behind him, and Bodhi did not happen that way. At least they're in 5 POA. You know, that's something. It's not perfect. It's not, but it's better than the Bad Batch figures we have, which are non-existent. So, then Kana Dis, another weird one, but another Jabba's Palace figure. We're starting to go deep into the background of these scenes because they made them in some form or fashion over the years. You know, I don't need all the Jabba's Palace and Cantina characters with rocker ankles and ball joint hips and all that stuff, but I'm just happy to have them. Like Victoria, I'm happy to have them loose, and that's sort of where I leaned on my list for the most part. But yeah, I've rambled enough. There you go. If I need to justify myself anymore, but the best list. But thanks. Oh, and
about
Pelimato, I'll say.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, last one I'll just say Pelimato. She was on my list last year, but especially after the In-1 stuff in Book of Boba Fett, which was, you know, some of my favorite stuff in that show, which, you know, maybe not saying a whole lot, but they need to get that vehicle out. I know it's, you know, rumored here and there, and we'll see what happens, but she is essential to that scene and the Mando collection as a whole. So there you go.
I actually began to dislike Pelimato off. You know, I quite enjoyed her in Mandalorian, but in the Book of Boba Fett, I thought she's a bit annoying. But,
maybe a little goes a long way, but you know, I like to,
you know, all that Jawa dating a Jawa stuff, and like, just went over my head that a bit. But I don't know, it all just got a bit silly, I thought, you know. But
that's Amy Sedaris. Yeah, she's Strangers with Candy. She's a great. I don't know, some of the goofy. Clearly, I like the goofy stuff with all these characters on my list, but.
To be fair, number 25, Lumpy, they could either repurpose that for a Gungi figure from Clone Wars and Bad Batch, or the other way around if they wanted to do a holiday figure next year and they did the Jedi Wookiee that everybody wants, and then make the holiday special Wookiee that only John wants. So,
and then what about I've seen on a few lists Buryaga from the High Republic. Is he the same age? I think he's a little bit older than.
He's a little bit older, but that'd be another one. They could get a couple characters knocked out, even if it was sizing was a little bit So
yeah, there you go.
And
Paul Hamilton says, "Yeah, I can't have Star Wars being silly." Yeah, because some guys, even some of our team members, they love the serious stuff. They, you know, George Lucas always talked about some of these guys. They want Star Wars to be the Terminator. They hate that, you know, kids like it.
I think that's a bit far, but you know.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, obviously I want the Inquisitors and I want those guys, but you know, I gotta be the voice for the goofy stuff here sometimes. So
yeah, I mean, we've got Jar Jar. I don't mind him, and you know, he's probably the silliest of them all, isn't he? So, but so when you were doing your list, I'm guessing, you know, how well they would sell. Maybe this is like your list because some of those are, but you know, even though they're like potentially pretty cool. you know, they're not
Yeah, I don't
exactly
know.
mainstream, are they? They're quite, you know, you got some pretty deep cuts in there, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to blow the doors off of Target when all the people marching in to go get all these figures, but they would make me happy. You know, I don't know if they
Yeah.
would make Hasbro's shareholders happy, but that's kind of how I approached it.
We're
And,
not
maybe
part
they-
of Blueprint 2.0, so we don't need to worry about making the shareholders happy
No.
with our wants.
Luthen, though, yeah, number 2. I'm glad he's high up on your list. That's a good one.
Yeah,
He's awesome.
and I also, speaking of the weirdness, my girlfriend wanted to watch both Mamma Mia movies back to back recently, and Stellan Skarsgård is in those movies singing and dancing to ABBA. So if you didn't love him enough from Andor, check that out, and either your respect for him will go way up or will plummet. But you know, he's awesome. He can do it all. He's awesome.
Got a few people in the comments asking who your number 18 is.
That's Kane Adis. He's
Yeah.
there. I don't know. It's kind of like 2 heads. We don't actually know what the body looks like. You can see it on the stairs when Han and Luke are being promoted or being condemned to the Sarlacc pit. And it was one of those things that, like, for years on back in the old days of forums and stuff, people didn't know if it was actually in the movie or not. It was sort of, you know, it's in a lot of behind the scenes things from Return of the Jedi. Just these weird giraffe heads that are like, are they twins? Are they connected somehow? We don't really know. Just some of the really weird stuff in Jabba's palace. Yeah, so
I would
not 2 giraffes.
I would put money on seeing Kane Adis in the vintage collection in some capacity before a single thing on my top 25 list.
Yeah, I mean that is as deep cut as it gets, isn't it? Number 18.
Yeah.
That's
Love
an
the deep
awesome
cuts.
choice.
I like how you have Klieg on there.
Yeah.
She is my wife.
She's my wife. Yeah, well, we have Owen and we have Baru, and we even have Padme in that outfit from that scene. And I know years ago they were talking to Daryl like a decade ago, like they'd talked about getting Kitster and Wald or Klieg. They tried to get them in the line, couldn't quite fit them. Maybe they weren't the most, you know, compelling choices, but sort of with a lot of these figures that like almost made it into the line, I think it's part of the interesting history of the line of what could have been.
They could do, if they did Kitster, does he share similar look to Anakin from Phantom Menace?
I'm sure legs and arms and stuff, but yeah, they can get another version of him out. I mean, they put out the Padawan one last year again. So, I don't know. Kleeger, yes, as Evan pronounced it last year, Kleeg.
I'm never going to live that down, am I? Ever.
Yeah, put them out as a HasLab pack. I'll back off 5,000 of these and we'll get them made. Why not?
He now resides at Windsor Safari Park. It does look like 2 giraffes. It has to be said.
That's what happened to Toys R Us. If you're wondering where Jeffrey went.
It's Jeffrey.
This would have been a great Toys R Us exclusive, yeah. Yeah. Tim, we seen your list today or not?
Yeah, I'll bring my list up. Yeah. Let's just if I can remember who's on it. Thanks for doing the graphic, Evan.
Yeah, for sure. Apologies if I got the wrong thing. You weren't very specific there, Tim.
Oh, was I not?
No, you weren't. I'm just giving you crap. Although there were a couple things on your list that I thought, why do you hate me? With I'll point to it when it's here. So
okay, hang on. Let me just. You're getting me worried now.
It's not that bad. It's just something that would be really easy to accomplish with the lightest of partial tooling.
Oh, really? Okay. How's that? I mean, I must admit, I did get a little bit of grief from like some of my so-called friends about my list, like digging me out, like, why have you picked him? Why have you picked him? What's he all about? And I was like, I had to sort of explain like why they're on my list. I felt like you, Evan. I sort of felt like persecuted for like my choices.
For the record, I love your list, Tim. The only thing that tripped me up was number 14, which is not because I don't want it and don't think it's great. It's just something.
I was talking to Nick
should.
about this one. I'm just not 100% sure, like, because I didn't have a good look at the Death Watch Mandos and everything that we'd had, and I wasn't sure, you know, how similar his bottom half was. You know, so
I think below the
it might have
knees,
been a
it's
wasted
pretty
slot
small.
Jango Fett, that one. I did get asked about that one.
Even a wasted slot, there's still no such thing as a wasted slot here. It's all of our wants here are.
Yeah, it's kind of like I just want an all new Jango Fett, but then obviously since we have been getting a lot of Mando stuff this year, so like as in Mandalorian figures, so perhaps they could use. I'm never that good in terms of like, oh yeah, they could definitely use that sort of shin guard for him because it's exactly the same. Because then there might be some small difference where some other person will go, no, you definitely can't use that. It needs to be all new. So I just put him on there basically. But there's no like even number one, like Garandan, you could say that the Saga Collection one is almost there. Like it's pretty decent, but you know, I would love a new Garandan on that card back in the Vintage Collection, and I put him at number one just to sort, as you've said, he helps boost him up, doesn't it?
So is the card the driving force, or is that like a figure that you wanted back in the vintage?
No, the card. I just think he's cool, and like they can use him for other things as well. You've got the flute one, you've got the assassin one, both in the Mandalorian. He even pops up in Andor, like in the Bix Road. Is it called Bix? Not Bix. Ferrix Road. Ferrix Road scene. He sort of like flies over the line of soldiers, I think, and lands on the floor. And it's like, it's definitely one of those, whatever that species is. Somebody will be able to tell me in the comments what the species is.
Yeah, it's
there Kubaz. You go, Kubaz, yeah. And then I've just got the very, very much like Victoria in terms of like finishing off things that we have already. So apart from the four main characters there, the heroes, I've got Baze is on there because, and I'm pretty sure I've got Bodhi on there somewhere as well, a bit further down the list. But Baze is my sort of biggest want from Rogue One, purely because we've just got his mate, haven't we? We've got his partner in crime. Like, he just seems a bit lost without him, really. And also Patrick from Hasbro always says Baze is his favorite character. Well, get him in the bloody line then, you know. Luthen, 2 tubes crossover from Rogue One and or what have you. You can get two characters out of him probably. Again, this is where you'll go, oh no, his upper torso has got different sort of necklaces on or whatever. But whatever, it's a 2 tubes. That's Melshi, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, for the Rogue One assault, just maybe you can make some other Rebel troopers out of his uniform. I watched Rogue One recently, and like a lot of the Rebel soldiers do they're dressed quite differently, so it's a difficult one for them to do that one.
I still think there's a way they can share parts with like Hoth soldiers and Indoor soldiers and stuff, because it's kind of just, it's the same vibe, but it's like painted differently. So I'm sure they can do a 4-pack or whatever of those guys. Yeah.
And who else have I got there? More Rogue One. Hammerhead and Squidhead. They're my 2 most important aliens left from, you know, that I would like from the original 96, and also just because they're cool. I have taken off a lot of figures and characters that I may have had last year, because I think a lot of the ones that I did have last year and the previous year may have actually ended up being made, and it was like, well, I'm picking things from, you know, maybe ones that are too obvious that will get done, like, you know, like Bo-Katan and Chrysanthemum and Dark Trooper and things like that. So I kind of tried not to do that this time. Hoth, Imperial Hoth, Kiadi Mundi and the Galactic Marine. Would love for them to do those. I've got Dooku on there, and we discussed Dooku last week with Chris, and it was like, well, you know, does it need an all new figure? You know, there are representations of him in other lines, but I've just got him on there because I want him in the line, so he's on there again. I've got the Client, Bodhi, Dedra. There's my Inquisitor, the 1 Inquisitor. Mon Mothma, I would prefer to have her from Return of the Jedi rather than Andor, although I love her in Andor. She's great. But with the whole Return of the Jedi theme going on this year, I would like them to do her. Tonica Sisters, obviously, and Atat Driver. I think we just need an update. And then C-3PO. Again, I was quizzed about C-3PO. So I just think that the one that we've got isn't good enough. It's too small. I'm not too sure what all the removable plates are about. I don't think it needs that. And you can kill two figures with one figure here, because also looking at the card backs as well, I think we need him on that first 12 Star Wars card, but then also it would be good to have the Empire one with removable limbs. So if you could somehow make the figure have removable limbs and give him the net in one package and then have him put together in another package. They managed to do it in the Kenner line, for God's sake, so I'm not too sure why they couldn't do it for Hasbro. So that's my list, really. Not too many surprises on there or anything too outlandish, really. It's pretty straightforward.
16 of those are in the Black Series.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome for that.
16,
I was trying to look at
wow.
Your list last year. There were a few that were made. I'm pulling it up now. You had Paz Vizsla on there last year. You had the Tusken Warrior.
Yeah,
I guess there were just a couple. Yeah, the big one. Everyone's asking, where's Bossk?
Yeah. So again, like people were asking me, where's Bossk? And it's because the one that we have, I think, apart from hinge wrists, from the waist up, he's fine. He just needs ball jointed hips and hinges at the wrists, and I'd be totally happy with that. So when I was thinking about a completely newly tooled figure, he doesn't make my list, because he's not as important to me as like an all new figure as, say, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo is, for example, or even C-3PO for that matter. If you look at the C-3PO that we've got, or the Princess Leia that we've got, compared to that Bossk figure's great. So that's why.
Yeah. And that was, again, back in original TVC run, they had the Saga Legends line kind of going alongside it, and they kept repacking the 2007 Bossk in that line. So like it was on shelves at the same time as TVC 1.0. They just didn't do as many repacks of.
He is in TVC 1.0, isn't he? He's in the 3-pack.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot like that, like Luke, Han, Leia, Obi-Wan, I think. In those 3-packs, or like even the Power of the Force 2 1B and stuff like that, FX7.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love them to put a definitive Bossk out, but I just think a lot of that figure is already pretty good, so that's why he doesn't make the list, really.
And then in terms of C-3PO's shininess, I know they talk with the vac metal, like it has to be low articulation, or I guess they're figuring out new ways to do it that aren't incredibly harmful to the environment or something. What do you feel about?
I don't necessarily believe that he has to be vac metalized. I just think he needs to be super shiny, and I think they can accomplish that. Like if you look at what they can do with like carbonized figures, and like the Mando, particularly the one that comes in the rescue set, he's like quite shiny. So if they could make like a gold version of that, then I mean, half the time he's quite dirtied up anyway, isn't he? Like, gets cleaned up at the end of the film or what have you. But for the most part, he's, So
with the vac metal thing, I hesitate to think of how expensive that would be for TVC, because they've got the vac metal 3PO that they're doing for retro in that 6-pack that they announced in May at Celebration last year, of the remaining original 12 for retro, and they super expensive. It breaks down to about $1,583 per figure in that little 6-pack for 5 POA retro figures, and they cited it specifically because we had to use vac metal on some of the pieces, so that's how we recoup the loss. And it's like,
yeah,
all right,
I don't know.
But I think what you will notice, I mean, obviously on my list there is no Solo, I don't think, and there is no sequel trilogy, and that's not to say that I don't believe that some of those figures will be made. I just thought it'd be a wasted slot for my list. Like yeah, as I say, it doesn't mean that I don't want them necessarily. It's just, I just think like bays. It's just like, for me, that's just like a must. Like, what are they playing at? And I tried to get a bit of prequel in there as well. I don't think I put any animated in there. I don't think. No, I didn't. So,
John, Dooku was the only prequel character that made the bracket last year, correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay, and
It's
he was
similar
number
to
one seed as well. So
yeah, because he gets the fans from the movies and the Clone Wars and whatever else. But I think maybe that's Hasbro's thinking as well, that like a lot of the adjacent prequel era figures can come out via the Clone Wars stuff, because I think maybe that has a more positive reputation. I love the prequels, but generally speaking, I think maybe there's more fans of Clone Wars these days. I don't know. Maybe they think it's more marketable that way. I do not know.
so just going back to 14, like what are your opinions on that then? Do you think that we have got the tooling for a Django? Do you think they would be able to make him? Is his armor just exactly like what we've got?
I mean, like with the troopers, there's even a few different, gauntlets and things like I'm looking at them now, but some of them now. He definitely has different holsters on his thighs, and I guess a different belt. So that would have to be redone. I think the thighs. This guy's helmet's pretty good.
they could use the torso from Return of the Jedi Boba, yeah.
No, because he has all the dings and stuff. So they could use this guy's torso.
Oh yeah,
because Boba has all the shot marks or whatever. And this is the same jetpack that Jango wears on Geonosis, and then the other one that Boba has is the same one that he wears on Camino. I got way too many figures on my desk, but even though this one does not have the like tape over it where it got hit by Han, whatever that is. So Jango's mostly there. That's why, we try to ask for all new tooling, but not everybody is as obsessive about keeping track of this stuff as we are. A character reads his elbows from 2 years ago, and we'd say it's not new, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess the fact that they have done all those Mandos now, that it would be a shame for them not to revisit Django.
And then another Mando to mention is Pre Vizsla, who almost won last year. He was like 50-50 with Chrysanthemum. And they did a version in the Clone Wars line, and he got a makeover between season 2 and 4 where he like shaved his head and gone a little rogue. And similar to the Death Watch guy, he has like more symbols on his armor and stuff. But he's the first guy to have the Darksaber. So I think it would be awesome just as like a Clone Wars. We're doing the Clone Wars 20th this year as well as the Return of the Jedi 40th. So I think now would be a good time to at least pipeline him or something, because we've seen very little for the Clone Wars so far. But with all the A New Hope talk, I wanted to ask this year, because they're focusing on Return of the Jedi, would you be upset if they didn't do very many A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back figures this year and kind of just focus on out of the original trilogy? How do you think people are gonna? Everyone's always worried. Where's the main 4?
My main 4 are there.
No, but I mean like in the line, yeah.
Well, I just think it's getting to the point now where they just need to do them. Like, but at the end of the day, I think I'm actually reasonably happy with the amount of Return of the Jedi stuff that we have had so far, and the stuff that's been pipelined and what have you. Because going back to the Empire Strikes Back, where they did virtually nothing, it's pleasing to see that we are getting something, albeit with some of it being repacks and stuff like that. But as we've talked before, a lot of the stuff they need to sort of bring it back for new collectors and what have you. So
like you said, they've already done so much Return of the Jedi stuff. Like now we're getting into shirtless human guard number 3 on the skiff, or
background pudgy dude on a skiff.
They've done the most exciting stuff. Or Simalu or whatever. But as much as I want him, so repacks are going to be part of it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
I still am just curious about that Han Solo. I don't know why it gives me anxiety wondering what they're exactly going to be doing with that. I don't trust them.
I know.
So, just because
It's
the one
like,
that we had
here's
is
the same
so
figure
bad.
without the trench coat.
That's what I'm worried about, man. Or
Yeah.
oh, what were your problems with that? His legs were skinny and terrible. Oh, well, those are the only things we kept. So
Are you happy with what they've done with the Scout Trooper? I know a lot of people wanted an all new one of those, but
I'm fine with it. I know.
it is what
Yeah.
it is.
I
It
think
could be
I don't-
worse. It's
I don't
it's
have
an
it in hand
okay
yet, but
figure already. So
Yeah, it could be better, could be worse.
yeah, my son's taken mine already, so I can't have it here to show it. But it's I think the helmet is a massive improvement. I mean, when you put the other one next to it, it's like a little pea head.
I was looking at.
Yeah, there's definitely, like the wrist situation is, it's like, oh, come on, would it have hurt?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even when I don't hate this figure that much. An all new one would be nice, whatever. But because of the upgrades they've done over the years, I don't hate it. Still, as we always say, I don't know why they needed to tool up an entirely new bike that looks almost identical to the one they already had 10 years ago. But it is what it is. Hey, at least it's totally accurate now. Even the other one was 99.5% accurate. So I don't know, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm happy to have it. I pulled up Victoria Year list from last year. Had a few that have been made since then.
Yeah,
Like
I was looking at that.
Yeah. Like Cal Kestis from Fallen Order. How do you feel about getting that version, even though we got the Survivor one now?
Yeah, I was looking at that. So, yeah, that's one that is not on my list this year, only because they are doing the new one. I would have preferred one from the first game, but it kind of scratches the itch a little bit. Other than that, I only see two other ones on the list that are, I guess, coming out, but they're not out yet. The Clone Trooper being one of them, and then the Return of the Jedi Darth Vader. Other than that, my list looks pretty similar to this year's, but those are the only two that it looks like that are coming that were on the list last year.
Yeah, so it's not bad. That's pretty good. I had my first list had 4. So I had General Merrick, Bo-Katan, Purge Trooper, and the 332nd Clone on my first year. I also had Obi-Wan in his Mandalorian disguise, which I still think would be a great, just slap a head on that body that we have. I know customizers have done it, but that'd be a great Walmart exclusive or something. And then from last year, I had Hunter, Helder Spinoza, the Bestman security guard, Paz Vizsla, and Antok Merrick's droid, which resulted in everyone's favorite figure of the year, R2SHW, the tiny guy whose door can't close. But I didn't ask for that body, okay? Don't blame me on that one. But
what, you don't like it when you turn over the X-wing and then a piece of his head falls out?
It falls right out. Yeah.
Yeah, the whooshability of the vehicle is kind of hurt by that figure.
I wanted to ask you, actually, Victoria, have you had a good look at the picture of the new Phase 2 clone on the back of that card that people were posting? Did you take a good look at it?
As best I can, given what it is.
What are your thoughts? I mean, because I've had people saying, because first of all, Hasbro said, and I'm pretty sure, oh God, I can't remember her name now. Who's the designer for Hasbro? Emily, thank you. I'm pretty sure it's Emily that said this is a brand new, from the ground up Clone Trooper. It's like all new sculpt. That's from what I can remember. And then a lot of people in my comments have said it looks like the ARC Trooper body to me, but I don't think it, or at least the torso, for example. I'm not too sure how many ways you can sort of do the Clone Trooper body. It's just, right. and then some people said, has the helmet size even changed? To me, it looked a little bit better, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, from what I've seen, I mean, it looks good. I don't know what the specifics are of it yet, but I hope it's all new, because that's what the line needs, is an all new clone. the ARC Trooper, the one that they've been using is decent, but I know some of the parts on them are a little bit different from a regular clone. So I don't know what all they could pull from the existing one. I just hope that if they do, it's anything that doesn't need, like, like the arms are fully articulated, but it needs to have like the newer style barbell hips. It needs to have the wrists and the appropriately sized helmet. So hopefully, we get all that on this new one.
Yeah, I was just looking at, just that one image that we've got on that back of the card. It is hard to tell, whether the helmet is in scale or not. I was wondering if it still looked a little bit on the large side. I don't know, but I guess if they've got a head under there, then it might be slightly bigger than it should be, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think the details kind of looked more like the live action costumes that they built for like the Obi-Wan series and the Andor series.
Yeah.
So there are differences from that to the 2005 CG model and stuff. And then I know, like, even with the Black Series helmet, people were complaining that the eyes look a little bit more like the Clone Wars eyes or something, or like the visor. I don't know. It's like a little bit in between. Like,
yeah, they were saying that there should be a gap between the black line and the eyes or something like that. But
okay, and then because even on the Clone Wars one, like the black thing doesn't exist, and then they took it off some of the Black Series figures. So I'm glad they didn't do that for this. But
someone just pointed out, and maybe I'm misreading this because I was reading it in passing at 2 a.m. With the ARC Trooper helmet, it's the Phase 2 helmet, but it has a fin on it. And someone was saying that all the ARCs that we have are actually inaccurate.
Well, they're wrong with us.
Jesse is.
Jesse is. Just Jesse. That's who they were
it.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when the ARC Troopers in the show, they were the first to have the new like face, the Phase 2 face, but they still had the Phase 1 fin because they were supposed to like be kind of in between. They're like on the forefront
Phase
of the design or whatever
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so Jesse it's accurate to what he would have been if he was an ARC Trooper a little bit earlier, but it's not accurate to season 7.
Okay.
But I know you're a huge clone fan and you can't wait for all these new clones, Evan, but
yeah, who can keep track? I should have just made a list that was just 25 different clones. And are you happy now? Do you guys like me yet?
I can't wait for them to do them all.
Yeah, they are different. And it's interesting because even like Hot Toys, they just did the 501st Trooper based on Revenge of the Sith last year. I think it came out last year or the year before last now. But then last month, they put out a pre-order for the Obi-Wan Kenobi 501st Clone Trooper, and it has all the slight differences on it. So it's interesting to see that. Yeah. I hope it's a great clone though, because I've been wanting this clone for like a really, really long time.
I know you have, yeah, me too.
Yeah, so this, anytime they come out with a figure, it's like, okay, this could very well be the last time we're ever going to get this character. So hopefully it's going to be like one and done, never have to touch it again. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
The arcs are a little bit shorter than I think they should be. I was just comparing to like Boba, and then the VC45 is a little too tall. Is obviously too skinny. That looks a little more like they took some animation inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. The legs are so skinny on those guys.
Yeah. So
especially when they're in the bubble. If you look at the new Clone Wars 501st, it looks really bad.
I had never really taken issue with that until I liked the Fallen Order Phase 1 like Electro Staff Purge Trooper we got.
Yeah.
But then the Phase 2 Purge Trooper that we just got for Obi-Wan Kenobi, I remember, John, I think I had texted you about it, where for some reason it just looked it just started to bother me with that one. I don't know why. It was just kind of
I think with the pauldron and the helmet flares out kind of like Vader, so it's like top heavy, I guess. Like you're and then the flared skirt doesn't help, but
I think it's definite that the VC45 body works better with the Phase 1 helmet. So the Phase 2 helmet is massively oversized, and it just makes the rest of the figure look even more skinny than it already is.
Yeah,
and that's why we need this new one,
Because I think when they started doing the Phase 2 on that body, they just took a helmet that was already from an older clone figure, and that was like a lot bulkier. Like the first Phase 2 shiny and the 212th figure that were in the line, which were based on older figures and stuff. So it looked better with the bulky armor, but yeah, once you get the skinny armor, it's like,
Yeah, I think it was the evolutions, I want to say. So maybe
yeah.
I do think.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sure the next Bad Batch reveal will surely be the exciting Commander Wilco, which is just a clone trooper with a black pauldron. So that'll be the first thing they do, I'm sure. But
I will say I am actually excited for just the basic Phase 2 clone. I think that's a nice way to kind of celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Clone Wars era, especially because the Phase 1 clone trooper in the 2003 Clone Wars line, was that the first super articulated figure?
yeah,
so
at least by the standards of the time.
Well, yeah, which 2003, 2004,
Still, we're still getting,
that's still current to Hasbro. So
Yeah, careful what you wish for.
yeah. Oh God, what if the clone is actually, they just hope that we all forgot and it's the 2003 sculpt.
Well, they did put the 2003 one in the gunship 10 years ago with the 2002 clone pilot and Yoda. I guess in the Blue Milk book, they're like, that was an accident. Somebody checked the wrong box at the factory or whatever, and they ended up with some really, really old figures. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So what are you guys just in general looking forward to the most for next year of all the stuff that's got pre-announced? What's floating your boat?
Would you pull up that graphic again, Tim?
Yeah,
because I'm struggling to remember and I don't have a second screen up right now to investigate.
Sure thing.
And Paul Hamilton in the comments mentioned they also put that 2003 mold in those Geonosis Jedi packs. So we never got the red captain and yellow commander on the VC-45 body, despite having the lieutenant and sergeant a number of times. But
I think that's what's frustrating about the new from the ground up clone is that they do it immediately after they just cranked out a bunch of different army builders.
Well, and there was years in TVC 2.0 with like no clones at all, and then all of a sudden there was a bunch, and then just getting
it is. Yeah, I mean, especially for things like the Ahsoka clone and things like that. I mean,
yeah, I just bought so many of the 501st too, but
yeah, that's kind of a kick in the teeth. I think for me, favorite thing here on the 2003 stuff is going to be Paz Vizsla, obviously, since he's the only thing from my last year's top 25 that's actually getting made. But I am really excited, even though I don't love Book of Boba Fett, I'm really excited for them to kind of build out that mini beat with Cad Bane and the Tusken Warrior. I'm really excited to see how those turn out. But actually, I'm going to change my answer. I think Captain Hauser is what I'm most looking forward to here. I've been clamoring for that.
On the VC-45 body.
Oh, yeah. Just really can't wait, because they already released it. I already have it perfectly. But, they got the name wrong. And so I really want them to fill up a mainline slot with that guy.
They just bought back all the Amazon packs that went on clearance, and then they're just going to put a little sticker over his name pill.
Yeah. God, I would love it. There's like white out on the card where someone just handwrite in Hauser. So.
What about you, Victoria? What's what are you most excited about on that list?
Other than the clone trooper, I guess I would say Cad Bane is an exciting one. Cad Bane is exciting. The throne room play set, I'm really anxious to get that. I already know exactly where it's going. So I'm hoping that it's gonna fit where I'm planning to put it. But yeah, all the pieces it comes with, and seeing it like at Celebration and at Comic-Con, like it's just it's a really impressive piece. A couple of things on here that I was excited for, but then pulled back on. But in the interest of keeping things positive, I guess those would be the ones I'm most looking for.
We can talk about that if you like. We can talk about that, like we saw a
we
picture.
Just talked about that, Victoria, didn't we, the other day?
Yeah,
we saw a picture of the Fett, right? That comes with the thing.
Yes,
the slave one.
And it doesn't quite match the photos on the box or in the solicitation. So yeah, and I know we'll see more of that. I just saw on Twitter earlier today that Chris got his from Bantha Skull, so he just received his. So I assume we'll see that a little bit more. But yeah. it's I was gonna get. I was already kind of like the price, $200. Yeah, I was already like, okay, but I'm a completist. I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna order it, and I did. I pre-ordered it, but then I saw those pictures of his outfit. I'm like, I guess even somebody as serious into a lot of this as I often tend to be. It's like kind of got to draw the line somewhere if it's not meeting full expectations or even like half expectations, because the Black Series version's been out for over a year now, and that's something that could easily have been tweaked. So I just don't get what happened there.
Yeah, just for a potential, it might, it's probably not, but basically the one picture that we've had of somebody that's opened one of those and it's got a brown soft goods rather than the accurate black, and the black is actually on all of the promo photos and everything. He is wearing black. Even the soft goods that comes down from his belt, that's brown as well, whereas it should be black in even on the promo shots. But a friend of mine, he sent me a picture of his Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian, because we In Demand Toys got them on from the import stock as well. And he sent me a picture and he said, is your Luke Skywalker Mandalorian, has it got a brown robe and brown soft goods? He's got those small soft goods around his waist. And I quickly found mine. I said, no, it's black. It's definitely black. Well, his is brown, and it's very much like the brown from that Boba Fett.
Interesting.
So I'm just like,
no.
and I said, I joked with him. I said, you should have kept that on card because you'd have some rare variant or something. But he's opened it up and he's like, oh, it looks more like Jedi Luke from Return of the Jedi, because obviously that is brown. But then he put those two side by side, and it isn't just the fact that they put the wrong one in. It's a different brown. So fingers crossed, maybe that one person's got like a dodgy one. But I can't wait for Chris to open his, and then we can see.
I did notice in the person that posted the pictures, the lighting and the colors don't even match each other. Like there must have been a setting on the phone that was like HDR or something. It was still brown, but like the pictures don't match themselves. So I'm interested to see with better lighting and photography what it's actually going to look like. Because like even if you compare like the head across the pictures, it doesn't match. So I don't know what's going on there.
I did an informal poll in my stories on Instagram asking, is Boba's robe brown, black, or so dark brown it's effectively black? And I got about 300 responses. 3% of those responses said brown. The rest were overwhelmingly 55% black and 41% so dark brown it's effectively black. So
when they repack him in 2 years, hopefully we'll get the colors right.
Yeah, they're going to, it. So
then everybody's going to want the brown one. Oh, I should have gotten that brown one.
Yeah.
$200. Oh, what a steal.
Who haven't we asked? Evan, did I ask you already, or was it John? I can't remember.
You did, and I was gushing over Hauser.
That's right, yeah. John?
I mean, it all looks good to me. I'm really glad they're finally starting the Bad Batch. I'm really glad to get Andor figures. And Cal said some of these, even though it's not building out a whole subset of characters, it's a start. And hopefully over the next few years, they can build more and more. Like, I'm glad they're circling back to Book of Boba Fett, because I guess the directors didn't really show them anything from that show. So now they're able to start announcing stuff. I wanted to say, I guess with Andor, like, even though the Aldani heist, Cassian doesn't have the right boots, I would love a 4-pack of, the other guys on the team and a generic Imperial with that body. And then Vel, I remember I was comparing like Cinta's arms and legs, and they're very similar. So I think they could do like a partial tool Cinta Kaz just to kind of build out the world a little bit without breaking the bank on tooling. I think they could do it.
That's one of my questions for next week, actually, is about the boots. I think that's...
yeah.
Again, the Black Series one's correct. So, what the hell? What's going on?
Yeah, and there's other guys with similar boots, like Piet's boots and Luke's boots would have been more correct if they just wanted to, cut them off at the knees, or I don't know. The parts have to match and they have to be at the same factory. I know, but there's a way they could have done it. It's kind of strange. I don't know.
Mm.
I'm definitely glad to have more, even though some of them are repacks. You know, we're getting 2 play sets this year. We're getting 3 vehicles that we know of. We got only the Navarro Cantina in 2022 as far as play sets, and then the Razor Crest, which we, paid for in October of 2020. So it's nice to see more stuff beyond just the basic figures. That's probably what I'm most excited about, is that we're continuing to see new expressions pop up in the line. Hopefully the speeder bikes lead to, other small vehicles. Again, Luthen speeder, Hunter's speeder, all these different things they could do. So what are you looking forward to most, though?
I'll just say in a second, but somebody's asking about the Star Wars Q&A, Hasbro Q&A things. Yeah, there's one next week. I think a few fan sites out there have been polling their followers and what have you for what they want to ask. I did the same with my Patreon supporters and what have you to bring up some questions. So we'll see what they have to say. It's probably a load of corporate answers, but we can only try. I'm not too sure who's in my one, but I know Chris isn't. But Chris is later on. But oh well. So in terms of what I'm definitely looking forward to, Piet, even Imperial Officer, bit of a boring figure really, but whatever. I just think it's such a great one to have as a base for. And we're talking actually last week, John, about the ranks. And I think your name cropped up. Was it you?
I was the one that brought that up in the first place.
Yeah.
Rather, he wouldn't have even known. But
so in Return of the Jedi, they've all got the same rank, regardless of their rank. Is that right?
Yes. So even because in A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, they already don't match. And I think a lot of fans latched onto the Empire Strikes Back version as like what is and what should be. But so like now in media that takes place before A New Hope, they all have the A New Hope style rank badges. Most of them have one line only, one row, other than Tarkin and like Krennic. And then after Empire Strikes Back, they're all supposed to have what is an Empire Strikes Back. So like in Mandalorian, they kind of match Empire Strikes Back, stuff like that. But yes, in Return of the Jedi, they all accidentally have the 3 red over 3 blue, which so it's correct to the movie, but it's it's probably not what they meant to have. But from Hasbro's point of view, they see that they can make 40 different figures with the exact same rank badge, and their eyes probably lit up, and they said, "Now's our opportunity to." It's accurate to Return of the Jedi, so we can just use the same body 100 times, and it'll be fine. Which, I mean, more power to them for doing that, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. They did when they did Nita, 13 years ago or whatever. They sculpted it so that it had a separate rank badge, so they could swap in more. I don't know if they actually ever did sculpt others, maybe once or twice, but yeah, I don't know if they'll have to tool up an entirely new chest for the different ranks, and then they can go crazy with here's all the admirals, here's all the
This one.
directors, whatever. Yeah,
Legacy Collection one.
yeah, and it had it was kind of raised a little bit. It didn't look great. The badge, it has the little rank cylinders next to it. It looks kind of a little too bulky, I guess. But I'm interested to get better shots of Piet. I don't really want his hat to be removable. It kind of looked like it might be in the card back image. The hat looked a little too big, in my opinion. But if I'm going to gripe about something, I'll be fine with the rank badges, but the hat's too big. I don't know. It's always something. We finally got everybody has rocker ankles now, and now we've all moved on to the new hips. We want the new hips, and they're like, weren't you talking about? Weren't you obsessed with ankles a year ago? Yeah, ankles are fine now. Now we're hip people. Now we talk about hips all day.
Taste
All right.
change, John.
Yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it? It's like that new Return of the Jedi Boba Fett's rubbish. He's rubbish because he hasn't got the new hips. Terrible figure.
Yeah.
It is funny though how and that's what Chris was alluding to with like the New Hope for you don't want those too spaced out, because the innovations that they do seem to be coming, they do seem to be adding like different things in a relatively short space of time. New hips, better hinges on the wrists and whatever, better neck joints or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
rocker ankles. Not to say that every figure needs rocker ankles, of course, but you know, when you've just got that definitive Boba Fett, and then you start getting those new Mandos, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's
But-
kind of like the Rogue One crew suffers from that, where Cassian and Jin, compared to
Yeah,
K2 and Chirrut, even, they look kind of junky. And then imagine getting something at the quality we're getting now for Bodhi and Baze, and boof, that's a
Yeah.
bit of
I
a
think-
quality jump just in that group.
Like, was it somebody at Yak Face posted the new Cassian's head on the Rogue One Cassian's body, and it was like an insane difference. Like,
Yeah. I saw that.
it looks amazing now in the old, but it makes everything else look worse by comparison. Like, I think these skiff guards, I think they're, you know, a lot of people like Woof as maybe one of the best figures from TVC 1.0, but yeah, now they don't have this. They have swivel hips, and everyone's anti-swivel hips these days or whatever. They don't have rocker ankles. So it's like they're trash. It's like they're perfectly fine for what they are, but you know, maybe not the $17 price point for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, do I really need a Velkin Taziri with 30 points of articulation that can do everything and anything, while I still don't have the main characters from the original trilogy that can pose somewhat dynamically? So,
And I'm also looking forward to that Tuscan as well. I like the design of those. I think that would be a good one. I'm pretty sure I had that on my list last year. I think you mentioned I
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think she just barely did not make the top 64, but I think the Chieftain did. And of course, Black Series is getting Chieftain, and TVC is getting the Warrior, and never the twain shall meet, unfortunately. But I'd love to see a pack of, they could just repaint the existing Tusken Raiders with some or change the color of the soft goods to have like a black robe, or, you know, they all kind of have mix and match that, or dark brown, apparently, according to Boba. But some of these different colored Tusken Raiders they had in the show would be an awesome use of existing assets.
Paul Hamilton's just mentioned there about the torso cut. I'm glad that the Piet does not have that. That was a welcome thing.
Yeah.
Because like for the Bespin guards, it just wasn't needed really, I don't think, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know why they couldn't have done a cut at the shirt, a ball joint cut like that. I don't know. See, and then people in the comments, somebody saying, you know, articulation was great 10 years ago, and someone else was saying, never ask for less articulation. I don't know.
we're a
depends on the
bunch.
It depends on the figure,
Depends on-
though, doesn't it? You know, there's certain
Yeah.
figures that just don't. You know, does Simalu need to do acrobatics? Like,
No.
you know, to get that figure in the line, you don't need
Yeah.
the level of articulation that a Mandalorian, trooper would have on Simalu. It's just makes sense, doesn't it?
Until he shows up in Andor season 2, Guns A-Blazing. An awesome action scene. But,
We see how he earned his spot in the Emperor's inner circle.
the last scene is going to be them putting the hat on his head. Like Vader's helmet.
Love it.
Just in someone they're saying it's a disgrace they're reissuing that 2004 Chewbacca. Yeah.
I haven't seen Chewbacca come up on a lot of people's lists. I will say that. If everyone's begging for a new Chewbacca, I haven't actually seen it a lot. But I think once we get the old one again, then people are like, okay, could use the new one. But even like you guys said on the last stream, like, it's not in and of itself, it's not that bad of a figure. Like, it's one of the better ones from that era.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Again,
still,
last week, when Chris is on, when you look at Leia Endor compared to that Chewie, the Chewie isn't that bad. It's, of course, it'd be great to have an updated Chewie. It's from 2004 or whatever it is, but it's not that bad. It's,
Yeah, it holds up. Could be better. Ball hips, rocker ankles could be better, but it's, for what it is, it still looks pretty adequate and like a display.
Yeah, but with like that Endor Leia, and you want to put her on the speeder bike and what have you, then that's completely different.
You have to turn her whole arms around.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome.
yes, so.
Right, we have been going an hour and 54 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up in a second. I'm just going to stop sharing that. Is there anything that you guys would like to add before we do finish up, particularly about March Madness and what people need to do?
Just, yeah, thanks everybody who has submitted so far. We appreciate it. I love all the conversations going on around this. Even if you don't accept that my list is the most accurate and correct one, you will maybe one day. That's okay. But yeah, so if you haven't submitted your list, if you're still thinking about it, there's so many places to submit. Our Instagram page, Victoria's Instagram page, Tim, your YouTube channel, the Facebook group, Rebel Scum, JTA, Bantha Skull, all these sites. If you haven't seen an article about it, I don't know what to tell you. You can only lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink, as we always say. But thanks, Smuggler's Canyon. You get it. You get it. But yeah, so we'd really appreciate more lists. You know, if you want to post it at other places, just make a note. Say, I already posted it XYZ, but here it is again to start the conversation, just to get that going and see what this group thinks. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so you have the rest of the month, just a couple more weeks. So I can't wait to see everybody else's list and hear your reasons for putting them on there.
Yeah. I think I know I've said many times where I don't really care about what people don't like. I love what people do like and what they do want. And I think that's been my favorite part of the conversations that this brings up, is people really talking about, you know, the things that they like, the things that they want, even if they, you know, if they try to put on the realism hat. No, it's probably not the smartest or the best or most possible thing for Hasbro to do. So yeah, I just keep, as John was saying, keep the discussions going, keep the list coming. So we really appreciate it. It's awesome. It's fun to do.
And I will say on our Instagram page, it's the pinned post. It's the first post you'll see on our Instagram SWTVC page. Just go there and you can submit the list, and there you go.
Yeah, just to recap, like in terms of, you know, when people are thinking about their lists, there's lots of different factors that people might think about or just don't care about. You know, whether it'll do well in the line might not really come into anyone's thinking, or some people it might, you know. But essentially, it's your list. It's not anybody else's. It's your list. That's the end of it. You know,
be selfish. Put the things on there that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is about what everybody say. This is what I want, and then we can take a snapshot of that. Don't think this is what I think other people would want. This is what I think is, you know, would be best for other people. Think about what you particularly want to see in the line. You know, this is the time to do that. So there's my pitch on that.
Yeah, it's the only way you'll get a true representation of, you know, you might end up with thousands and thousands of. How many characters did you have, like different characters last year?
Last year was over 1,200 different characters, or like, you know, outfits or whatever. But and there's some, yeah. We need them all. We need them all now. There's some expanded universe characters I've never heard of. You know, my list had a few people don't know. Evans had it. You know, people don't know Marchion, Rowe, whatever from the High Republic.
Depends on which audio you listen to.
Or, you know, yeah, you could look at these lists and then say, hey, yeah, that's a cool looking character. Maybe I want to learn more about that guy. So it's always talking about what you like about Star Wars is always a fun thing. So we get enough complaints. We'll do those later, you know.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, awesome. Any final thoughts, Victoria, before we head on off?
Again, in the interest of keeping things positive, no.
Happy beaks, Victoria. Happy beaks.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. Well, we'll just end up then on, you know, letting everybody know in the chat. There's still 220 people watching, so you can let everyone know where you hang out, basically, where they can find you, where they can find your content. And we'll start with you, Victoria.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tim. Thanks, Evan and John, for having me on and looking at our lists, comparing. That was a lot of fun, and the graphics all look gorgeous for them. And thanks for all the hard work you guys are putting into doing this. And, you know, I know it's a lot of work, but it's an awesome thing to do. And, you know, there's eyes on them. So great stuff. Thanks again, Tim. And yeah, so at Vic's Cantina on Twitter, Victoria's Cantina Instagram, here on YouTube, Victoria's Cantina. And yeah, thank you. Happy to talk toys. Just hit me up, and yeah, we'll chat. You know, why we're not going to get X, Y, and Z figure anytime soon, or, you know, whatever it is. We'll try and keep it positive, though. We'll do our best.
Yeah. And which one of you two guys? Well, actually, you've got your own channels as well on Instagram, haven't you? So Evan, take it away.
All right. Yeah. You can find me, of course, at SWTVC with John and Tyler and Lewis and Carlo. And then I'm on my own as at Mile High Ground. We also have the SWTVC podcast where we are going to be talking about top 25 stuff as well. So stay tuned. We'll be returning soon with episode 50. And maybe if y'all are lucky, I'll get my butt in gear and we'll do a couple mini episodes for the top 25 stuff. So yeah. You can find me at Mile High Ground on Instagram, and you'll see me either being happy or falling into a grumpy mood at 2 a.m. and posting something about it. So,
and before we move on to you, John, I just want to say quickly, I should have said this at the very beginning, but we were due to have Lewis on today as well, but he called in sick. Didn't have a doctor's note or anything. He just said,
Nope.
Tim, I can't make it. I'm feeling rough. And just a big shout out to Lewis. Hope you're feeling better, mate, and everything. And it's just, sorry you couldn't be with us, but we'll let you off this time. So, John, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I feel better, Lewis. But you can find me on Instagram at The Vintage Concepts right there. See some card back images. I don't have a lot of time to post them these days as I'm going through everybody's 8 million lists, but, it's fun. Hopefully one day I'll get back to it. Also at SWTVC on Instagram and YouTube and the podcast world and everything. But yeah, so once your top 25s are submitted, keep talking about everybody else's, look at everybody else's. We'll still have a lot of other content coming this month. Lewis and Tyler always post up a lot of great photography from the community on the SWTVC page. That's the bulk of what we do and what we post. And yeah, once everything's tabulated, we'll get the top 100, top 64, and the bracket going in March. So stay tuned for that. March is going to be busy with Mando. You got the Jedi Survivor, everything official and unofficial. It's going to be a crazy couple of months, but thanks for participating and thanks for having us, Tim. So it was awesome.
yes. Thank you.
As always. And I just want to echo Aquilish Doug there. He says, thanks for coordinating this, Evan and John. Such a great way to advocate for the TVC community. 100%. I do appreciate the work that you guys put in. The only thing I would say is that it's only once a year, which is a bit of a shame. But I guess
if anybody else wants to do it,
yeah. It's a lot of fun. I can't wait to actually do the bracket on a live stream again. That's one of my one of my favorite live streams on this channel. That was a really good laugh. That was loads of banter and stuff going around. So. But yeah, cheers for all the work you're doing on it. It's awesome. I can't wait for March. So
yeah. Thanks to you guys
all right, then.
for promoting it and doing everything you do for it. So
yeah, of course, no problem. All right then, folks. Well, we're going to say goodbye now. It is 2 hours, 2 minutes. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Ask Boss Bounty will be on the channel tomorrow at the usual time. Haven't been able to do it the last few weeks because it coincided with New Year's Day and Christmas Day. So that'll be back tomorrow. So tune in for that. And I'll probably be doing the giveaway results for the Red 5 Designs book in that video. Probably. Can't promise, but more than likely. All right then, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you on the next one.